Hello, my name is Christy, editor, beta reader, ghostwriter, and today I want to quickly edit a short snippet of What Fury Brings by Tricia Levenseller. I have recently read this book because it was recommended to me by a YouTuber I hold in high regard, but alas, the book turned out to be quite terrible in pretty much every way. So, What Fury Brings explores the conflict between two nations. Amara, where women dominate men through horrific oppression, and Brutus, where men are the ruling class. Some 500 years ago, the goddess Amara empowered women to subjugate men by giving them super strength, reversing the gender roles. The story centers on Olera, the crown princess who lacks super strength and intends to secure her position by kidnapping a prince from Brutus. However, she mistakenly captures the king's eldest son, a guy called Sanos or Sanos. Gonna call him Sanos. Okay, so I won't spoil the ending, but this thing is so utterly predictable you can guess what happens all by yourself. I want to do a review of this book and why it's so incredibly bad in the near future, but today let's just demonstrate how not to write a description and how to world build. As usual, I will read the original passage, then go through one round of line editing, just to demonstrate what vivid prose should look like. Okay, so this is from page 23 on my Kindle. "Wait here," Olera said to her guard. The queen stood near the fireplace, sipping a glass of wine, her wife, Toria, at her side, with her arm slung around her back. "How did we fare?" the queen asked. Lemia was a tall woman, broad of shoulders, with black hair cropped short to her scalp. She wore no crown, as Amaran queens did not need one to know their worth. She wore a pleated dress that came down to mid-thigh and belted at the waist. Olera wore a similar outfit. Warrior women liked their ease of movement, and the hot climate in Amara necessitated shorter garments. Look at the repetition of both the words and the sentence structure. She wore, Olera wore, warrior women liked. These sound like sentences written by a child. Also, it's telling and not showing if you just blandly and emotionlessly describe something and say, they liked this and that. There is no soul, no beauty in the prose, but also no character. This is third person limited, so we should be getting insight into what Olera, the point of view character, feels, where she's looking, what she notices, what matters to her. But there is no lens. This is just a laundry list, passionless, uninspired, and devoid of any sort of personality. The entire book is written like this. The pacing never changes, so that the action scenes and calm conversations all sound the same. There is absolutely no usable world building. We've got a bunch of floating heads on an empty stage. Okay, so how would I change it? Well, first of all, let's get rid of the atrocious repetitions and extremely nondescript sentence structures. We'll refine the rest in a second step. How about, "Wait here," Olera said to her guard. The queen stood near the fireplace, sipping a glass of wine, her wife, Toria, at her side, with her arms slung around her back. "How did we fare?" the queen asked. Lemia was a tall woman, broad of shoulders, with black hair cropped short to her scalp. No crown adorned her royal brow. Amaran queens did not need one to know their worth. Her garb was traditional, a pleated dress that came down to mid-thigh and belted at the waist. Olera's outfit matched her queen's. Warrior women liked their ease of movement, and the hot climate in Amara necessitated shorter garments. Okay, so now we've got rid of the repetitions. We still don't have any sense of the scenery or what Olera's clothes actually look like. Similar is such a cheap shortcut that doesn't convey anything. I won't bore you with the entire revision process, so let's get right to it. This is what I have after one round of editing. "Wait here." Olera glanced over her shoulder at her surly guard, who responded with a curt nod before marching outside the large chamber. The heavy wooden door shut with a dull thump. Ah, privacy at last. Being constantly followed around by guards made it difficult to feel like a normal person. Although, being in the quiet of her own austere bedroom would be preferable. Not that complaining would make any difference. She had a duty to fulfill. The Queen stood near the crackling fireplace, sipping a glass of wine so dark it looked almost purple. Her wife, Toria, idled at her side, her arms slung around the Queen's back. The acrid scent of burning birch made Olera's sensitive eyes water. If it were up to her, she'd crack open one of the shuttered windows facing east and let the pale winter sunshine into the stuffy room. Alas, the Queen enjoyed wreathing herself in smoke, it seemed. How did we fare? Her voice carried a noticeable edge, despite her relaxed posture. Lemia was a tall woman, broad of shoulders, her black hair cropped short. No crown adorned her royal brow. Amaran queens did not require gaudy displays of authority to understand their worth. Her garb was traditional, a pleated dress that came down to mid-thigh and belted at the waist. Olera's outfit matched her queen's, even if the fabric was a plain dark brown and much less refined. Ease of movement facilitated combat. Besides, Amara was hot enough even during the winter months. Why would any woman choose to cloak herself in unwieldy sweat traps? Is this a masterpiece? No, but I did a few things to improve the writing on a line level and to add some minuscule world building. I added more senses. We now know what Olera looks at, what she notices about the smell and the temperature, that she prefers fresh air and simplicity. We also know that she, as a soldier, notices small details others might miss. She is attuned to the discrepancy between her queen's tone of voice and her posture. Through some tiny additions, we have added much needed characterization. Olera is a warrior. She values simple clothing, the outdoors, and she doesn't like to be babysat by guards. We've also established that she is dutiful and will place her obligations above her personal wishes. At this point in the story, she has a high opinion of her culture, views different traditions through her own cultural lens, and scoffs at women who dress in long gowns without considering those women's circumstances. No more floating heads, no more empty stage. Instead, we have an actual backdrop in which characters can interact with each other and with the scenery, and that just provides a mood for the scene. I've noticed that a bunch of these romantasy books have the most generic writing one could possibly come up with. No thought was put into the world, the scale of things, how people interact with their surroundings, what they should notice, what differentiates one character's perception from that of another. Everything is just described in the most robotic and anemic way possible, and I'm sorry, I just cannot have fun with a book that has so mediocre prose and basically no world building or characterization to speak of. So the moral of the story is, put some effort into your writing. Use all your senses. Be mindful of the pacing, of the tone, of how your point of view character would perceive the world around them based on their personality and lived experience. And if you're not a writer, demand a higher quality when it comes to the books you choose to read. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I will see you around.